So we're just briefly going to talk about some of the influences on the Declaration of Independence. You guys have been doing a good job going through and getting information to kind of compare our current situation with the situation of the colonists in the 1770s. So just to kind of finish that out, looking at the road to the Revolution, we're going to spend some time just looking at some of the influences additionally that they had. So, intellectual influences. Now, that involves things of the brain, and there are certain types of things that early Americans believed in, and some of those things include witches. The Salem witch trials, remember, was the 1690s in New England, so this is not too far outside of our date range that we're looking at. And they believed things like mysticism and witchcraft. They believed in signs and folk medicine. They believed in all kinds of wisdom that was passed down from the ages about you plant things on a full moon and you drive a metal nail into the middle of the floor of your house. You don't look at mirrors in the room when someone has died. You cover them up with a sheet because then their spirit might be trapped. So there are all these things that are totally against what the Enlightenment stood for. And so the types of things they believe in, here you go. So during the Enlightenment, though, people start posing questions about kings and government, and they start posing questions about religion. So they pose questions about kings and religion, and then they also organize themselves around four big principles. Number one is that the natural world has a law-like order. There are seasons. The sun rises, the sun sets. The birds migrate away for winter and then they come back. Everything in the natural world has order. And if everything in the natural world has order, then humans must have order too. They also believe in the power of human reason. They believe in the human's ability to think logically and to figure things out. They believe that everybody is born with certain natural rights. Everybody is born with certain God-given rights. And then they believe in social improvement. They think that society will get better. It will improve. We will learn from our mistakes. We will learn from our past. And we will continue moving forward. Sometimes it seems like that has not always worked, but they were kind of dreamers, so unicorns and rainbows for everybody. Alright, now, there's one guy that's definitely not unicorns and rainbows, and that is this guy named Thomas Hobbes. And Thomas Hobbes believes that people were crazy. He thinks that people are absolutely nuts. They are out of control. They are not to be trusted. He also believed that if you did not have strong leaders, the world would be destroyed. So I think we can see where this guy is headed. He says that, alright, freedom and liberty, the ability to do what you want, that's not as important as safety and peace. So, if you just dance around and do whatever you want, that is not good if society is not safe, if society is not controlled. If society is in chaos and you are still having the freedom to say what you want to say, go where you want to go, he says that doesn't matter. We need order, we need safety, we need peace. He says that society is kind of like a leviathan. It's this creature that will grow and devour and breed chaos if somebody is not there to control this beast. So this guy does not have a very happy outlook on human nature. Now, on the other end of that, there's a guy named John Locke. And John Locke is a little more up the alley of some of our early founding fathers like Thomas Jefferson. So John Locke supports an English Bill of Rights. He supports this bill in England that would allow the English subjects to have certain rights that he believes people were born with. Now, he disagrees with Hobbes, and he says that people should be able to make decisions. Remember, Hobbes is saying that society is evil, people are crazy. So Locke thinks that people should have a little more credit than what Hobbes is giving them. He says that freedom and liberty are more important than order and safety. Remember, this is a guy who thinks that, unlike Thomas Hobbes, that everything will be orderly and safe if people are given their freedom and their liberty, because people will learn, people will improve. And he says that people should be able to overthrow kings who abuse their power. Whoa, hold up, wait a minute, John Locke is just saying something here that is treasonous. John Locke is saying, you don't like the king, he's abusing his power, get him out, overthrow him. That is something radically different from what was practiced in Europe and taught in Europe before the Enlightenment, where this thing called the divine right of kings, this belief that God had chosen the person who sat on the throne, and that if you question the king, you question God. John Locke says, no, you are born with reason. You should be able to get rid of a king who abuses his power. Now, there's another guy named Montesquieu, and Montesquieu is another one of these big Enlightenment thinkers. And Montesquieu agrees with Locke's. He says that individual liberties should be protected. So he believes in Locke's views. He believes in a system of checks and balances, which we have in our American government. If one branch decides to go off the deep end and do something that they are not allowed constitutionally to do, other branches can step in and keep them from doing that. So this is why Trump has been writing executive orders, and he's now challenging the courts because the courts are checking and balancing his power. They're saying that this is not constitutional, this will not work. And so that's what we see in action right now. He also believes that government's power should be divided into three branches. So I hope that you guys can start to see, even with a very limited understanding of how our government works, that these guys played a big role in shaping our Constitution and our government. We have checks and balances. We have individual liberties that are protected in the Bill of Rights. We have three branches of government. We also have strong rulers to keep us from going completely crazy. Okay, now, there's another big issue that people are upset about besides just intellectual influences, and that's the loss of representation. So, your question is, why were they so upset when they started to lose independent control of their colonies? Well, it's because that most colonies enjoyed local representation since settlement. From the minute they stepped off the boat, most of these colonists were able to govern themselves as they saw fit. Now, all of a sudden, the king and the British government are involved more in the daily lives of the colonists, and they do not like it at all. So that's a major thing that's happening. And there's another big issue that you guys should have picked up from your 13 steps. The Sugar Act, the Tea Act, the Townshend Acts, the Intolerable Act, the Stamp Act, the Navigation Act, they're all taxes. Taxes is a big issue that upset the colonists. And it's not the fact that they had to pay them, it's that they had to pay some while other people in Britain did not. It was they had to pay them because Britain was doing things that were not necessarily in the Americans' best interest. So it wasn't just taxes, it was why they were having to pay the taxes and the taxes that they had to pay. But it was a big issue. Okay, now, even though this situation is so crazy in America during the 1770s, some people do want to remain loyal to the crown. They want to stay with Britain. They're called loyalists. And some of the reasons that a person might remain loyal is if you were a royalist, if you made a living, if you earned money off the crown, if you were Anglican clergy, if you were part of the Church of England. That was run by England, hence the name. So if you left England, you lost your job in the Church of England. Also, it was a valued trait to be loyal. Nobody wanted to be seen as a rebel, a troublemaker. Loyalty was something that was valued among the English people. It was noble, it was virtuous, and so to be a patriot was something really radical. Okay, now, a lot of times new immigrants didn't want the same environment they left, which was crazy and fighting and war and bloodshed and violence and turmoil and protests. So they just wanted to stay in a nice, calm place. Sometimes, when a massive change in power happened, religious tolerance might be upset. A lot of people, we're seeing this now again. A lot of people think that under Trump's presidency, we're seeing an increase in hate crimes and hateful speech towards people of the Islamic faith that we did not see with Obama, and a lot of people think that under Obama Christians were more persecuted or punished than they are or will be under Trump. So, I mean, anytime a massive change in power happens, religion has a part in that. And then also, Lord Dunmore's proclamation, which we looked at, black slaves were promised freedom if they fought for Britain. So why wouldn't you want to remain loyal? Hey, I'm going to fight against you and stay a slave, or I'm going to fight for you and earn my freedom. It's a pretty simple choice for a lot of black slaves in this time. Okay, so that is the end of this first section. I hope you got everything. If you didn't, just go back through and skip around and catch whatever you missed, and then come back for the second part of the video, and we'll pick up and talk about the Declaration a little bit, America's favorite breakup letter.